everyone, this is Umida with you. The theme topic for today that I have chosen is literary analysis, studying and analyzing works of literature from different time periods, genres and cultures. This video material examines the vast and varied landscape of world literature by analyzing works from different time periods, genres, and cultural contexts. It explores literature through ages. Different genres express unique thematic concerns and others by engaging the range and others. Here we go. I would like to give you a single question. What is literature? Yes, the majority part of you all has already guessed that literature comes from Latin, is originally meant the use of letters or writings, and literary sources are the collection of spoken or written works. And the next question for my video is that what is literary analysis? Allow me to explain it in 3 more sentences. Okay, literary analysis is a critical approach to understanding the cultural, historical, and social contexts that shape literary texts. By studying and comparing works of literature across different time periods, genres, and cultures, we can uncover universal themes, distinct narratives, techniques, and cultural ideologies embedded in the texts. In this video, I would like to give you a table of contents we are going to observe during this video. Okay, the first section. As if you have any kind of problems in understanding a huge range of works, you will have to divide it into chunks, or in other words, we can say as parts. And I also did it indeed. The first section deals with the evolution of literary forms across time. And in the second section, we will observe genres and their influence on literary meaning. And the following section, the third one, deals with universal themes across cultures. And the last one, the fourth section, we try to learn about literary theory and its application. Allow me to work on the evolution of literary forms across time. It was concerned to ancient and classical literature. In ancient and classical literature, we can divide it into 2 parts: epic poetry and mythology, and philosophical literature. Analyzing or analysis of ancient texts such as the Iliad and the Odyssey, Greek, the Aeneid from Roman, the Mahabharata, Indian, and the Epic of Gilgamesh, Mesopotamian. We will have to focus on themes like heroism, faith, the divine and moral lessons when we are dealing with these ancient works. And in philosophical literature, we will work with the works by Plato, Aristotle, and Sophocles that blend drama, philosophy, and ethics. Understanding the ancient writings, we will face to the beginning of writing and early literature. The origins of written literature can be traced back to the early civilizations of Mesopotamia and Egypt. The first known form of writing, cuneiform, emerged in somewhere around 3500 BC, while hieroglyphics developed in Egypt shortly thereafter. These early written forms were primarily used for administrative purposes, such as recording trade transactions and keeping genealogies, but gradually evolved into mediums for storytelling and artistic expressions. In the next stage, Mesopotamian literature, we will face to the Epic of Gilgamesh and beyond. The Epic of Gilgamesh, I can say, as it was one of the best masterpieces of that time. This epic tells the story of Gilgamesh, who was the king of Uruk, who embarks on a journey of self-discovery after the death of his friend Enkidu. And in this Epic of Gilgamesh, you can come across to the themes of friendship, morality, and the search for immortality are central to the epic, making it precursor to later literary works. Also, this work reflects the value of Sumerian society, particularly the importance of kingship, the relationship between humans and the gods. Yes, at that moment, they had kind of ideas that human and the gods have the links between each other which cannot be resisted. And in Egyptian literature, we will deal with the wisdom texts and the Book of the Dead. The wisdom texts, in other words, I can give one example as the instructions of Ptahhotep. It was a collection of proverbs and ethical teachings which lead people to have a right lifestyle. And the next one, the Book of Dead, was about describing the journey of the soul through the afterlife. The instructions of Ptahhotep is ethical, and in this book it explains or just gives instructions how to live a virtuous life. On the other hand, the next book, the Book of Dead, is ritualistic and it is concerned to judgment before Osiris. The rise of Greek and Roman literature. We cannot imagine it without Greek epic poetry by Homer and Hesiod. The Iliad, the work Iliad, it is the poem that centers on the idea of kleos. This means glory. And the next work is the Odyssey, which explores themes of homecoming, loyalty, and the complexities of human nature. And the following is Hesiod's Theogony, a genealogical account of the gods. In the next, we can work with Works and Days, which offers moral and practical advices to humans. In Greek literature, you can come across to the themes of heroism, faith, and the relationship between humans and the gods. The following is Roman literature: Virgil, Ovid, and Horace. In Roman literature, Virgil's Aeneid was a national epic of Rome, and Ovid's Metamorphoses is a mythological narrative. Ovid's playful and imaginative approach to myths. After Roman literature, we will work with medieval literature. In medieval epics and chivalric romance, you can study the works like Beowulf, the Song of Roland, and the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri. These works represent blended of Christian morality, feudalism, and heroic idealism. In medieval literature, you can find religious literature, the Bible, in its various versions and translations, St. Augustine's Confessions, and other religious texts that shaped the moral and theological landscape of the time. Medieval literature, you can work with faith, allegory, and chivalric tradition. Also, you can see, or I can say, find some data about Christian church, feudalism, knightly virtue. And in religious literature and allegory, you can see, or you can understand it as a monumental work that tells the story of Dante's journey through hell, purgatory, and heaven. In this work, you can find themes of sin, redemption, divine justice, and the human soul's quest for salvation. It is the work theological, philosophical, and literary elements. This work was the greatest achievements of medieval literature. The period, or we can say time, Renaissance and Enlightenment. Humanism in literature. This period you cannot imagine without Shakespeare. Yes, the works of Shakespeare, Cervantes, Don Quixote, and Montaigne, who emphasizes individualism, human potential, and critical thinking. Enlightenment critique, you can find Voltaire's Candide and Rousseau's The Social Contract, critiquing society, government, and human nature. In character analyzing at the moment, or I can say period of Renaissance, you will face to some information about Petrarch, often considered the father of Renaissance humanism, was instrumental in reviving interest in classical texts and promoting the study of Latin and Greek. Also, you can find Giovanni Boccaccio's Decameron. He was another prime example of Renaissance humanism. This collection of 100 stories told by a group of 10 young people sheltering in a villa from the Black Death presents a diverse range of human experiences, from humor to tragedy and challenges medieval views on morality and the human condition. Shakespeare's works combine classical themes such as fate, love, and revenge with a keen physiological insight into human nature and behavior. Plays like Hamlet, Macbeth, and Romeo and Juliet are prime examples of the Renaissance exploration of individual agency, the consequences of ambition, and the complexities of personal identity. Next is the Romanticism and the rise of novel. Romanticism and the rise of novel, we can divide it into two kind of sides, like as Romanticism, the novel's emergence. In Romanticism, the works of Wordsworth, Coleridge, Byron, and Shelley, with a focus on emotion, nature, and the sublime, were the actives of that movement. And the novel's emergence is concerned with the evolution of the novel in the 18th and 19th centuries through writers like Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, Charles Dickens, A Tale of Two Cities, and Leo Tolstoy, War and Peace. In modernism and postmodernism, you can face to modernist literature and postmodernism. And in modernist literature, you come closer to a close reading of works like James Joyce, Ulysses, Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway, and the Eliot's The Waste Land. In postmodernism, you can have a look at works by Samuel Beckett, Waiting for Godot, and Thomas Pynchon, Gravity's Rainbow. The next section, genres and their influence on literary meaning. We will have four kinds of divisions regarding to genres and its influence. The first division is epic poetry and tragedy. The second one is the novel, and the third is drama and theater, and the fourth one is poetry and lyricism. And we will investigate these divisions one by one in this video. The first part, epic poetry and tragedy, ancient and classical epics. In this part, we will analyze the Iliad, the Aeneid, and the Ramayana as explorations of heroism, faith, and morality. And in tragedy part, we will come across with the Sophocles, Oedipus, Rex, and Shakespeare's Macbeth, exploring themes of ambition, power, and tragic flaws. The novel. The rise of the novel regards to examining Don Quixote, Robinson Crusoe, and Moby Dick as transformative works that shifted narrative focus toward individual consciousness, social critique, and existential questioning. Modern novels. In modern novels, we will analyze works like 1984 by George Orwell and Beloved by Toni Morrison, focusing on dystopian reality, historical memory, and identity. In the part Drama and Theater, we will observe Greek drama, Shakespearean drama, and modern theater. In Greek drama, you can observe or find or work with the works of Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides, focusing on the role of the gods, human suffering, and the search for justice. As we all know, as we all are aware of Shakespearean drama, we will work with analyzing plays like Hamlet, Macbeth, and King Lear to understand themes of power, loyalty, and tragedy. In modern theater, Ibsen's A Doll's House and Beckett's Waiting for Godot, which examine existentialism, alienation, and the breakdown of traditional social structures. Poetry and lyricism. Lyrical tradition. In lyrical tradition, you will face to the works of Rumi, Emily Dickinson, and Pablo Neruda. And in the epic poetry versus lyric poetry, you will compare Homeric epics with lyric poetry from Whitman and Yeats to examine how different forms engage with personal versus collective experience. The next section we will deal today is universal themes across cultures. Here is the list of works we will deal: The Hero's Journey, Power and Corruption, Love and Identity, Colonialism and Post-Colonial Struggles. In The Hero's Journey, we will analyze the hero's journey in works like the Odyssey, the Ramayana, Beowulf, and the Mahabharata, identifying common themes of personal transformation, divine intervention, and the struggle against fate. In the Power and Corruption, we will have a work like Shakespeare's Macbeth, Akeby's Things Fall Apart, and Conrad's Heart of Darkness, revealing the corrupting influence of power, exploring the tension between individual morality and state authority. In the part Love and Identity, we compare the treatment of love in works like Romeo and Juliet, The Sympathizer, and the love song of Alfred Prufrock to explore how love shapes identity and social relationships. In the part Colonialism and Postcolonial Struggles, we will explore works such as Heart of Darkness, Things Fall Apart, and White Sargasso Sea to understand how colonialism influences literature with a focus on identity, resistance, and cultural survival. Literary theory and its application. Regarding to structuralism and post-structuralism, Marxist literary theory, feminist and queer theory, post-colonial theory, we will deal with these listed parts. The theory overview of structuralism and post-structuralism. In this overview, we will see how structuralist critics like Roland Barthes and Claude Lévi-Strauss view language as a system of science, and how post-structuralists like Derrida challenge the stability of meaning. In case studies, we will have application of these theories to works like The Great Gatsby and Crime and Punishment, analyzing narrative structures and meaning. In Marxist literary theory, Marxist theory to analyze social classes and economic forces in works like Grapes of Wrath, we will find fully information, Les Miserables, and A Tale of Two Cities. The following part, Feminist and Queer Theory. We will deal with gender and power, analyzing works through a feminist lens and a queer theory perspective to explore how gender and sexuality are represented in literature. In postcolonial theory, you will find all data about postcolonial theory to analyze works like The God of Small Things and The Tempest, exploring themes of identity, power and resistance. In conclusion, on the same topic, literary analysis, studying and analyzing works of literature from different time periods, genres and cultures, I would like to suggest to you all to read the books that those I have listed you above. And while you are traveling along the books world, in other words, I can say as the world literature, you will find all the answers to your any questions. And while you are in this process, you will find yourself how interesting was the literature in the ancient periods and how it is keeping to be interesting in our contemporary novels and in the periods of today. In the end of my video, I will not say goodbye. Instead, I say see ya till the next video materials.